I always thought HOA horror stories were exaggerated. You hear them online, shake your head, and think, that could never happen to me. I followed the rules, I stayed quiet, I paid my dues, and yet one single shed turned my quiet neighborhood into a full-blown property rights war. The shed wasn't some massive structure. It wasn't ugly. It wasn't blocking anyone's view. It sat peacefully at the back of my yard, built after weeks of planning, measuring, and double-checking boundaries. Before a single nail went in, I paid for a professional land survey. Stakes were placed, lines were marked. I even took photos just in case someone ever questioned it. That just-in-case moment came sooner than I ever expected. One afternoon, I received an email from the HOA, short, cold, vague. It said my shed was allegedly encroaching onto HOA-managed land and that I needed to correct the violation immediately. No diagram, no measurements, no survey attached, just a threat. I replied calmly. I attached my survey. I asked them to show me exactly where the shed crossed the line. I even invited them to come out and look at the markers themselves. Silence. Days passed, then a week. I assumed common sense had won. I was wrong. On a random weekday morning while I was at work, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls, texts, one voicemail from my neighbor saying, "Hey, I don't know how to say this, but there's a crew in your yard. They're tearing your shed down." My heart dropped. When I pulled into my driveway, I felt sick. Half my shed was gone, walls ripped open, panels snapped, tools scattered like debris after a storm. The ground was gouged, and standing there, supervising like royalty, was an HOA board member with a clipboard. No knock, no final notice, no permission. I asked who authorized this. They said the HOA did. I asked based on what evidence. They said it crossed the property line. I asked to see the survey. They didn't have one. Instead, they pointed vaguely at the ground. About a foot over, they said. About a foot on someone else's land with no proof. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos of my survey. I pulled the physical copy from my car. Bright, clear lines, professional stamps. The shed wasn't even close, not inches, not feet, not even arguable. That's when the tone shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't a violation, it was a misunderstanding. Suddenly, the survey might be outdated. Suddenly, they were acting in the community's best interest. Then came the most ridiculous excuse of all. They claimed it was an emergency situation. An emergency shed? I told them to stop immediately. I started recording. I measured the distances on camera. My neighbor stood there watching. Another neighbor came outside. Witnesses everywhere. The HOA rep stopped making eye contact. The crew packed up faster than they arrived. No apologies, no explanations, just silence and a half-destroyed structure sitting on my land. 2 days later, a letter arrived, written by HOA lawyers. Cold language, carefully chosen words. It said the HOA acted within its authority and denied responsibility for damages. That letter sealed their fate. I contacted a property attorney and handed over everything: emails, photos, videos, timestamps, witness statements, and the original survey. He smiled and said, "They crossed your property line before they accused you of crossing theirs." Within days, the HOA's tone changed. Emails became polite. Phone calls stopped entirely. Then came the offer: full repair costs, extra compensation, written acknowledgement that my shed never violated the property boundary. They didn't win. They retreated. And here's the lesson. HOAs rely on intimidation. They assume homeowners won't document, won't fight back, won't understand property law. But once you stand firm with evidence, the power shifts instantly. This wasn't just about a shed. It was about property rights. And they learned. On my land, paperwork beats authority every time.